Dear President Obama, because you have a YouTube channel and so do I am sending you this message via it with gratitude for Secretary of State Clinton's follow-up phone call to Prime Minister Netanyahu, reiterating America's strong objections to Israel's ongoing building of the settlements. On February 1, 2007, Senator Clinton stated at an AIPAC meeting, both Israelis and Americans know so well that a democracy is far more than just holding elections. Democracy has to spring from an active and open citizenry dedicated to tolerance, respect for differences, to the rule of law, to policies that lift us up, not tear us down as fellow human beings, and to the value of human life. Clinton continued, "We also know that the dangers posed to Israel have been compounded by the rise of power of Hamas. Hamas leaders have refused to disarm, reject violence, even to recognize the right of Israel to exist. The Palestinian Authority first agreed in 1988 to recognize Israel, reaffirmed this in 1993 during the Oslo Accords, and in 2006, after being democratically elected, Hamas issued another olive branch of recognition of Israel, but they were ignored and Gaza was put under siege. On November 15, 2005, Senator Clinton stood on the Jerusalem side of the wall and was quoted in Haaretz expressing support for the wall because she stated it is against terrorists, not against the Palestinian people. During the taping of 30 Minutes with Vanunu in January 2006, Mordecai Vanunu stated, "It's too bad that Hillary Clinton visited the Jewish Wailing Wall, but not the real Wailing Wall, the apartheid wall, the Palestinian wall." As a senator, Clinton stated, "I've been a strong supporter of Israel's right to build a security barrier to keep terrorists out. I've spoken out against the International Court of Justice for questioning Israel's right to build that fence of security. International law states occupation is to be temporary, that the occupiers are not to transfer their population into occupied territory and maintain the status quo. And what right does anyone have to put a fence up on somebody else's property? When the wall is superimposed on a map of Palestinian aquifers, it illuminates that the wall is about grabbing land and resources. In 2007, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs stated, financed with U.S. aid at a cost of $1.5 million per mile, the Israeli wall prevents residents from receiving health care and emergency medical services. In other areas, the barrier separates farmers from their olive groves, which have been their family's sole livelihood for generations." Senator Hillary Clinton stated, "I went to see the fence with my own eyes during a trip to Gilo, a Jerusalem neighborhood. I saw this fence too, and the fence divides Palestinians from Palestinians with 25 to 30 foot high concrete slabs with razor wire trenches, sniper towers, military roads, electronic fences, and surveillance and remote-controlled infantry buffer zones that stretch over 100 miles wide and deny Palestinians access to their land, families, jobs, resources, and holy sites. In 2000, before the construction of the wall began, there were less attacks from militant Palestinians than in 2000. In the year 2000, a few hopeless militants who had given up on the peacemakers of the West to force Israel to honor international law, UN resolutions, and the UN Declaration of Human Rights, instead infiltrated Bet Jala to snipe across the gorge into the illegal colony of Gilo. Israeli forces retaliated, and the shrapnel that blew apart the bedroom of 3-year-old George read, "Made in USA," and was delivered via American-made Apache helicopters that buzzed over his innocent head. American-Israeli coordinator and co-founder of Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, Jeff Halper, informed me, missing from Israelis' security framing is the very fact of occupation, which Israel both denies exists, and that security requires Israel control over the entire country, rendering impossible a just peace based on human rights, international law, and reconciliation. It's been said that the Israelis do not love this land, they just want to possess it. There have been 3 stages to make this occupation permanent. The first, establish the facts on the ground, the settlements. There are 500,000 Israelis and 4 million Palestinians here. They have been forced into Bantustans, truncated mini-states, prison states. It is apartheid, and Bush and Hillary are both willing collaborators. In 1977, Sharon came in with a mandate, money, and resources to make the Israeli presence in the West Bank irreversible. The second stage began April 2004 when America approved the Apartheid Convergence Realignment Plan and 8 settlement blocks. Jeff continued, "This is just like South Africa. The Bush-Sharon letter exchange guaranteed that the U.S. considers the settlements non-negotiable. The convergence plan and the wall creates the borders, and that is what defines Bantustans. Israel has set up a matrix of control, a thick web of settlements guaranteed to make the occupation permanent by establishing the facts on the ground. Israel denies there is an occupation, so everything is reduced to terrorism. It's our job to insist upon the human rights issue, for occupied people have international law on their side." While still a senator, Clinton stated, "It's not enough for us to say the right things. We've got to be smart and tough enough to do the right things that will protect American and Israeli interests." Tough and smart comprehends that the only way to security for Israelis is justice for Palestinians. Tough and smart would demand an end to the occupation and ensure that all people do indeed have equal human rights. No enduring peace, no security, no reconciliation is even possible without the foundation of justice, which equates to equal human rights and international law. Learn more about George and my first of 7 trips to Israel-Palestine at WeAreWideAwake.org, March 16, 2010. I'm Eileen Fleming, author, founder, and senior correspondent for WeAreWideAwake.org and producer of 13 Minutes with Vanunu and 30 Minutes with Vanunu. Power to the peaceful. Only in solidarity do we have it in our power to begin the world again.